Today I want to show you guys my newly acquired Collins US Navy transmitter. This is a model TCB-1 and it was built under a contract for the US Navy in February of 1941. As you can see, it's a pretty big transmitter. It's taller than most of my others. It was a bit of a challenge actually to get it into the house. But once it's here, it was worth all the effort. It's a single 813 in the final, and it's plate modulated by a pair of 805s. The rated output by the Navy was 75 watts over its entire frequency range, but the actual output is about 150 watts of carrier fully modulated. So typical World War II US Navy conservative output ratings for transmitters. The TCB-1 is an auto-tune transmitter, which was Collins' design, which allowed complete control over the transmitter from a remote control station. You could select any one of 10 preset channels. You could decide on what mode of operation you wanted, and you can also shut down the transmitter all at the remote station. So I'll give you a demonstration of how the auto-tune works on this transmitter, and also the way that the telephone type dial is used to control the function of the transmitter. I have this remote from a FRT-24, which was a post-war Collins transmitter, but it has a lot of similarities with the original unit, and I've adapted it to work with this transmitter. So it's not perfect, but it'll work for now. So the first thing you do to put the transmitter on the air is decide what mode of operation you want to use. In this case, we'll say the desired mode is A3 or phone. And now we have our filament supply is on, and the high voltage time delay relay is now on its way to closing. And after that, we can fire up the transmitter. And after the required 40 seconds of the time delay relay, you now see the red light is on, indicating that we have plate voltage or high voltage for the transmitter. And the first step in tuning is you put the voltage control into the low voltage selection, and we're going to tune it up by making sure that the oscillator is doing its job. So for that, we'll open the front door of the transmitter, and as soon as you do that, you're limited to just the low voltage power supply being operational, obviously for safety purposes. And a pretty well thought out interlock system on this transmitter, which was very common with Collins transmitters of this era. A lot of thought went into making it as safe as possible for operators. All right, we have the front door to the transmitter open, and I'll give you just a tour of the interior. You can see what's going on in here. At the very bottom, we have the two heavy plate power supply transformers. Good place for them. The next deck up, you can see the pair of 805s. Those are the modulators, and the rectifier tubes to the left. In this case, 3B28s that I'm using instead of 866s. The next deck is the high voltage power supply filter and control deck. You have the control panel there with the master on-off switch to the right. And to the left of the control panel, you can see the electric motor, which is used to run the auto-tune system, which I'll show you in just a bit. Next deck up is the speech amplifier and control deck. There's a lot of stuff going on here with limiting and other circuits that are designed to optimize the audio coming out of the transmitter. The next deck up is the exciter deck. I spent quite a bit of time with this thing when I first got the transmitter. There's a band switch here, and one of the band switch ceramic cylinders had slid up the shaft and was completely out of contact with its switch. That was not easy to find. So the exciter deck is now fully operational, and you can see the 813 tube back there. That's the final tube. You can see the bank of crystals here. I have the crystal cover off so you can see them. There's 10 crystals in there. And then up at the top you have the output network, and then the metering. Pretty standard Collins style metering across the top of the transmitter. The next step in operating the transmitter is to select which of the 10 pre-selected frequencies you want to operate on. And you'll see that when I dial the number for the channel I want to have operate, the auto-tune motor will begin to work. And then what it'll do is be setting these 5 controls in the predetermined location to transmit on the frequency that you have selected. So again, you have 10 of these which are pre-tuned and locked into place. Okay, and now the fun part, whenever you have a Collins auto-tune system. And now we're on that selected frequency. A little bit hard to see, but all those knobs have turned to the preset location that they're supposed to be at. Now we'll go to channel 8. And we're ready to start tuning up. So the last operation we'll be able to conduct before we close the front door and close the interlock is to make sure that the oscillator is working the way it needs to be working. And that's pretty much determined by these 3 meters. Now just operate the test key and you can see the deflection there. So everything's already been preset. All you're doing at this point is verifying that it's operational, and we'll go on to the next steps now by closing the front door, which will give us the high voltage supply. All right, we've verified that our oscillator is working. Now we're ready to tune up the final stages of the transmitter. And we'll go here and use the power selector to go to the tune mode. And then I'll be pressing that test key again so we can see what's going on. But the thing you want to look at is the plate current meter here. And you can see to the left of the plate current meter on the far left, that's our B+ supply. It's at a reduced level right now so that we can do our tuning. And the other meters indicate modulator plate current, line voltage, and this is RF amps, antenna current output. So we'll be looking at the meter second from the left, looking for our plate current to the final amplifier. Okay, and there you see it. Now we'll increase to the operational level of B+ for the power supply. And you can see that the transmitter is now loaded right there with 105 mils, which is what's called for. You can also see a pretty healthy deflection of RF amps from the antenna current meter. So at this point, the transmitter is ready to go, and you can operate on either phone or CW. Has an electronic keying system in it, which allows up to 250 words a minute Morse code. So we will not be pushing that envelope with my sending, maybe maxing out at about 18 words per minute. You're done using the transmitter and you want to shut it down, go over to your remote control system, and we're going to dial up A0, which will shut the transmitter down. And there you go. 1941 Collins TCB-1 Navy transmitter.